can't see. What's going on?
Jimmy, sit still, keep quiet, and do not move from this spot.
Here's why your camera is not important.
Hello? Hello?
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Nate Caywood. I am a Los Angeles-based cinematographer, and I created this channel with the intention of breaking down the images of some of the best cinematographers on the planet in the hopes that by reverse engineering their work, I can learn their tricks and steal them and become a better cinematographer, and hopefully you guys can learn something along the way. Today we're diving into 28 years later. Yes, I know the film has not dropped yet. However, the trailer did come out a couple months ago, and yes, I have not seen it. Man, it seems like... Man, are they using fast shutter angle? No way. Man, are they using the iPhone on the drone too? I mean, this is like the crosses frame is incredible. Oh wow. Silhouetted like watchtower sunset. We got to check to see what lenses they shot these on, because it's like anamorphic or what's going on here. I mean, mounting the camera to a zombie. Flashlights. I mean, you can't go wrong with a little haze and a flashlight scene, guys. I'm telling you. Ooh, scary. Oh, wow. Production design. Look at this. This is just daylight and production design. Backlit some... Oh, yeah. We're going to do that one for sure. Wow. Wow, okay, first of all, that was a really good trailer, right? Like, the energy of it was incredible. Okay, a lot of really great images in there. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to pull 4 or 5 of my favorite images from that. That was amazing. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, the idea of thinking that your camera is important when, like, the quality of your camera is important. When we just watched that film and it's shot on an iPhone... which I know that they do on purpose. It's part of like the format. It's part of using horror format for these like homemade images. But that was so cinematic. And like, again, it's just about composition. It's about exposure. It's about how you frame things. It's about how they're lit. Okay, let's get into it. I'm going to pull some frames. I'll see you in 1 second. All right, we're back. We're getting into the images. The first image that I pulled I thought was really interesting because it's a high dynamic range image. And I think that this is where we, at least I as a cinematographer, really perceive the smaller sensors, the iPhones, to fall apart. I mean, the iPhones are getting so good now that that's not an issue, especially with apps like Blackmagic's Design's camera app or like Filmic Pro, where you can record... log images and you can record ProRes RAW, which is like a higher bit depth of color. You can really get some great images. So like this is something that you could shoot on your own with your phone. Now I know what everybody's going to say in the comments. They're going to be like, yeah, but they have like Cook speed Pancros mounted to a thing and mounted to a cage in front of the lens, and so you're really putting it through $50,000 glass. You're trying to tell me that you couldn't get a cheaper version of that and then create this? Like, you know. All right, super interesting. First thing that I notice here is, love this sort of curtains over here, but they're vaguely transparent, so level is coming through them. Ambient soft level is coming through them. A hard specular reflection of some sort, so maybe they're using a one of those mirror reflectors, CRTLs, or Lightbridge is the brand, I think. Lightbridge, or I think Godok's just released some of the mirror boards. Because it's or they're shooting it through some sort of glass or something like that, like stained glass, something or other, because it's just, it has texture to it, which is very cool. So we have a hard, basically there's a big light outside this window that is shooting in here, hard light of some sort, because it's hitting her. This is ambient level on this child. This is ambient level that's stretching into here. So maybe there's a softbox pushing out something this way, a light mat, something like that, because I don't think that you're going to get the level on this young woman's face here just from this hard light. So I think they probably got at least two lights going. This might be a specialty light. They got at least 2 lights going on in here, some sort of softbox and a hard light coming through this window. Okay, great. I also think, like, I just want to recognize something I think is interesting over here. I'm not sure what's going on over here, if this is a curtain covering a door. It looks like this is a door frame, but it looks like they have made the choice either narratively because they're trying to hide, and so they've sort of covered it up. But I just wanted to point it out that this is probably a natural light source that would be a door, because there's like this little crack of light happening over here. But the production design, along with the director, made a choice that was going to be covered. And I think that's smart, because basically what it's doing is like it's casting our attention this direction. We're looking at what's happening here because she's the brightest thing in the frame. If this over here were unblocked, that would be equally bright. So then our eyes are sort of like being drawn to different places. So kudos. Kudos. I think this is a great image. This looks incredible. Like, if you're able to control your levels of contrast in space, like, and you can control your exposure on these digital sensors, it's like, what are we talking about? You know, we're able to do it. Okay, let's move on to the next image. All right. This one's super simple. I just wanted to choose this one because I wanted to highlight once again, man, this is really just about framing and composition. Or this is really just about composition and exposing for the clouds. You expose for the clouds, that makes this dark. Boom. So now you sort of have like a silhouette contrast thing, but you can still see texture in the fabric. You can see texture in the sort of masky face, the crucifixy face thing, and you can see that there's an arrow right here. I mean, you got to ask yourself, really, when you're trying to break down lighting, when you're on set, or when you're doing location scouts and you're reading the script and you're trying to look at, like, when you're analyzing how you're going to capture these images, you really just got to think to yourself, what is the story that you're telling? And then once you figure that out, how do we show that story? This is just story within a frame. There's no talking. We don't need to, like, we get it. It's setting mood. It's setting tone. Exposed for the clouds. Bob's your uncle. Okay, great. We're in the next image. The reason that I chose this one is, like, I love the texture and depth that you're getting. Like, this is a really great example of why I think talking about lighting is important, and why I want this channel to be largely focused on lighting breakdowns and then breaking into other aspects of cinematography, because this is a painting with light. There is nothing interesting happening in this scene. And the only reason, like, the production design, compositionally, art-wise, I'm saying, the reason this scene is compelling is because of the way that it's lit. Let's take a look at our layers, and then we'll see why it's awesome. All right, we've got a practical light here that you can see in the scene, which justifies all the other lights. Once you see one of them, you're like, yeah, there's a bunch of lights hanging around whatever this, like, torture chamber is. Like, okay, cool. That's helpful. It also creates depth. Like, we know that this part of the frame is further away than this part of the frame just because of the proximity of where the light is. Like, our brains and our eyes can deduce that. So we're creating three-dimensionality just from having the practical light in the scene. All right, let's talk about the layers of light and how they're building depth through the layers of light. First layer of light, closest to us in the foreground, is some sort of uplight on the zombie. Next layer of light I see is this kid's face. We're immediately drawn into it, right? So that's sort of bringing this light. Another uplight, which I think is interesting, another thing to think about. Okay, the other layer I think is the back of this kid, right, which is giving us shape. Here's a layer. Here's a layer. Ooh, I forgot to mention this layer right here. This layer, right? And then my final layer, second to final layer, I would say, is this layer right here, which is sort of creating this wall depth. And then this layer right here. Look at that. A lot of layers for just on a shot list that you're trying to create for the director. Over the shoulder, medium close-up of kid. That's what you're going to see. This is what they created. Incredible, right? Painting with light. Practically speaking, they probably have some sort of hard source shooting back here because he's got this edge right here. That's a nice little greaser. I've heard that called. We got a backlight here, which is giving him shape that way. Love that. We've got a key light down here. You can see the catch in his eye. It's some sort of small circular thing. Maybe they're bouncing a fixture into it. That's coming up this way. It's softer than the other light, so it makes me feel like it could be a bounce, or it's like a diffused Roscoe dot or something like that, or MC4 Pro. with the dot attachment to it. Who knows? This backlight here is probably creating this texture right here, which is on the front of the, well, for our perspective, the back of the zombie, for the character, the front of the zombie. And then obviously there's some sort of small texture light coming up here to create depth and texture in this image. Okay, great. I think that's good coverage for this one. Let's move on to the next one. I am a silhouette hound, man. I'm obsessed with silhouette. I'm trying to figure out how to get that stuff in my images all the time. It's just like not a thing that I go to. I'm always like, okay, expose for this guy, make sure that it works. And then it's like, oh, that character is so dark. And I'm like, why not just lean into it? Why not lean into it? This is horrifying, right? This is like a ghostly, like horrifying image. You're just seeing incredibly dark silhouettes running at you. Again, this is just exposure and composition. Look at how low the horizon is on this frame, right? And the negative space that's happening is so interesting because it just brings us right into this tree and these zombies. Because there is a framing of this where you sort of like tilt the camera down a little bit, and this horizon becomes the third right here. And then the tree becomes like this. And then the scaries are here. But that's infinitely less interesting than this, right? It's so compelling. Because it's sort of like, okay, well, once you learn the rule of thirds, you know, which I plan on making videos about the sort of like beginning aspects of cinematography later on down the road. So maybe I'll link it in the bio later. Once you learn the rule of thirds, this is how you figure out how to break it. I would say. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I just want to reiterate why I think it's important to highlight that your camera doesn't matter at all, because this being shot on an iPhone has nothing to do with the quality of the sensor, has nothing to do with the color bit depth, it has nothing to do with any of that nonsense. What it has to do with is this is an incredibly compelling frame, and it's exposed well to heighten and elevate the narrative of this story, which is, do you want the scariest thing possible? How do we do that during sunset or late afternoon daylight, blue hour, whatever? Boom. That's scary as hell. I mean, this is super scary. All right, let's move on. Already did that one. Boom. Let's get into this image. Man, I just keep coming back to the simplicity of this stuff, which is like, this is just about story tricks, right? What's the scariest way to put people in a space that could harm them at any moment, but they can't see the space? But we need to be able to see them as an audience. What do? Flashlight helmets. I think this scene is genius in the way that they've lit it. Look, they're not the first people to do it. Like, this is like old school aliens trick where you're like, oh, make everything dark, put some haze in the room, give your character some flashlight, then when you least expect it, jump scare. Love it. I just wanted to pull this particular one because this is the establishing, and I think the establishing shot makes this scene work because everything you see is this, and you immediately extrapolate danger into that space. You're like, boy, they have no idea what's going on here, right? Does this, like, ask yourself the question as you look at this image, does it matter if you shot this on an Alexa or a Blackmagic Pixis 12K full frame open gate, or even like a Sony Venice? You know? I don't think so. I don't think it matters. I think what matters is the composition and the story that's being told within it. Nosferatu shot right here, y'all. Nosferatu shot. One simple light source? Is that what you're thinking? It might be, but it might also be two. Let's take a look at this. It does look like they took the grade down way down right here. So maybe the fall off was too much from the light. Like maybe this was exposed, but doesn't it look like, I mean, you let me know in the comments. Doesn't it look like they kind of basically took a power window and just brought everything down there? Which again, that's great. It's about narrative. It's like, where do our eyes want us to go? The filmmakers want our eyes to go directly towards that silhouette, and boom, that's where we're at. Like, incredible. The practicality of this is quite easy. acquiring the resource to do it is not quite easy. I mean, because, you probably need a condor or a cherry picker, depending on the size of your budget, which is some sort of crane or elevated thing to be able to put a big old nasty light back there. Big old nasty light shooting this way. That's what's happening, right? It could be a question of how many of those big old nasty lights there are. I mean, it seems like it's back here hidden behind the trees. Doesn't this seem like the hottest part of the... And if that's the case, then it does feel like there's enough wrap. The reason that I say that is because there's this highlight in the skin tones of this character right here on the side of their face, and I will undo it so you can see that. That is like direct hard light hitting them in the face. So it makes me feel that the fixture is further this direction to come around that way, which I think as you're looking through the haze makes sense. You're trying to do something scary, something vibey, put a bunch of haze or smoke or fog in a forest, get a light as high and as powerful as you possibly can, way behind them. Exposed for that light, silhouette everything. Welcome to Scary Town. Welcome to Scary Town. Okay, guys, and those are a couple images from the trailer of 28 Years Later. I think the movie looks incredible. I cannot wait to see it. It is just an opportunity to remind ourselves, look, I do the same thing. It's very easy to get caught up about all of the specs and all of the things like this sensor is revolutionizing cinema and here's the camera that you have to get and all that sort of stuff. And like, look, YouTube is very good at having people giving convincing arguments as to why you need to spend a lot of money on products. And I think one of the things that's important to recognize about this trailer, it's important to recognize about them using an iPhone to shoot this film, is that technology is getting to a really, really good place. And we all have access to some sort of image maker, whether it's your phone, whether it's a small mirrorless DSLR camera. Maybe your lenses aren't the quote unquote best lenses in the world. Forget all that noise. Focus on how you can tell the story through composition. Once you have compelling compositions, figure out how you can create the feeling, elicit the emotions that you want the audience to feel within those scenes, and ask yourself, how can you achieve that feeling? A lot of times, getting that feeling isn't as difficult as you might think it is. Frequently, we see so many high-end polished films that it feels like they're lighting a lot. Sometimes the most cinematic lighting setups are the easiest ones, which is just put a big light outside of a window and it's like the sun. I think just take some time to like really actually look at these images and be like, wait, what's compelling to me? What was interesting? And then notice how they did it. Like the biggest one that I really cannot stop thinking about is the flashlight scene. Where you watch the trailer, watch the flashlight scene, and be like, yo, what is this doing? How does it make me feel? And how difficult was for them to actually shoot it? Which is the answer is mount some flashlights to some people's heads. Or just have them hold a flashlight in the hand, If you need light, get a flashlight. You can make really great looking images and incredible films with lights from Home Depot. I promise you. We don't have to keep going down all of these rabbit holes of buying gear and stuff. Let's just focus on making films. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know how you feel about this. Keep your eyes out. I'm going to be dropping a lot more content in the coming months. Excited to continue with the channel. Let me know if there's any films that you want to see breakdowns about specifically. I got a couple in my mind, and hope to speak soon. Be sure to like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Guys, please leave me some comments. It really helps the algorithm. I'm enjoying talking to you guys in the comments, so hit me up. Let's talk soon. Cheers.